Welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something that I think a lot of people are fascinated by, and that is human emotions.
Oh, absolutely.
And we've got a great source to help us dig into this, and that is Dr. Paul Ekman's Emotions Revealed. We've
Mm,
got some audio clips queued up, and
perfect.
those are going to be focusing on disgust, contempt, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, and enjoyment.
Yeah.
So,
A whole range there.
yeah, a whole spectrum of human emotions.
That's amazing. And it's really incredible how we reveal so much
Yeah.
without even realizing it sometimes.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And Dr. Ekman really got into those kind of subtle signs.
Mm.
So I guess let's start with disgust. I think we all know what that feels like, that sense of aversion.
Mm.
But disgust actually serves a really important purpose from an evolutionary standpoint.
That's right. It's our body's way of protecting us from things that could be harmful.
Yeah.
So, if something smells rotten or
Yeah.
if water looks contaminated, disgust helps us to avoid those things.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But Dr. Ekman, he actually found that this goes beyond, just physical threats.
Mm.
Like he showed participants videos of surgeries and severe burns.
Oh.
And get this, most people reacted with disgust, not empathy.
It is a little bit unsettling, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it really highlights how powerful that emotion of disgust can be. It's almost like it creates this psychological barrier
Right.
that prevents us from getting too close to something that the brain perceives as potentially dangerous or contaminated.
It's interesting, though, because a small percentage of people actually felt sadness and pain, almost as if they were experiencing the injury themselves.
And what's fascinating is that those individuals were often the ones that had a personal connection to the person in the video.
Oh, wow.
So it suggests that our disgust response,
Hmm.
it's somewhat muted when it comes to people that we care about.
Yeah.
We're more likely to approach and help somebody we know, even if they're injured or ill.
That's really interesting. So it's like a double-edged sword, right? It protects us from harm, but then also it limits our compassion, especially for people outside of our immediate circle.
And that has implications for how we interact with the world around us.
Yeah.
Think about how disgust might influence our reactions to, people experiencing homelessness or poverty.
Yeah.
And so understanding that potential bias
Yeah.
can help us to cultivate more empathy and compassion.
Yeah. That's a great point. Okay, let's move on to contempt.
Okay.
And Dr. Ekman makes a distinction between disgust and contempt.
Right.
What makes contempt different?
So while disgust is more of a general aversion, contempt is directed specifically at people and their actions.
Yeah.
It's a feeling of moral superiority,
Huh.
a judgment that the other person is somehow beneath you.
So less about avoiding something unpleasant and more about I'm better than you.
Exactly.
Got it.
And you see this reflected in the facial expressions.
Okay.
Think about the classic eye roll or the tightening of one corner of the lips.
Mm-hmm.
Very subtle,
Yeah.
but powerful signals of disapproval and disdain.
Yeah, those are loaded.
Right.
And Dr. Ekman, he highlights some pretty alarming findings about contempt,
Yes.
especially in relationships.
He found that experiencing contempt from a spouse can actually have really detrimental effects on the other person's health and well-being.
Really?
And it can be even more damaging than anger or disgust.
Wow. Why would that be?
Well, the contempt really chips away at the very foundation of a relationship.
Uh-huh.
It's a form of rejection
Right.
that can lead to feelings of worthlessness and insecurity.
Yeah.
Imagine being constantly subjected to eye rolls and smirks from the person who's supposed to love and support you.
Right.
That's going to lead to emotional distress.
So it's almost like disgust might make us withdraw,
Yeah.
but contempt is much more like insidious. It's slowly eroding the connection over time.
Yeah, chipping away at it.
Yeah.
So it's really crucial to be aware of these subtle emotional dynamics in our relationships.
Yeah.
Recognizing and addressing contempt is essential for maintaining healthy and supportive connections.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about sadness and agony. We often use these terms interchangeably, but Dr. Ekman makes a distinction. So what's the difference?
So sadness is that very familiar feeling of sorrow and emptiness we experience when we lose something or someone we care about.
Yeah.
Agony, as Dr. Ekman describes it, goes a step further. It's a state of intense suffering.
Okay.
It's a feeling of being trapped and unable to escape the source of our pain.
So it's like sadness amplified,
Exactly.
like feeling helpless.
Precisely.
Okay.
And you can actually see this reflected in the facial expressions.
Mhm.
While both sadness and agony involve drooping eyelids and downturned lips.
Right.
Agony adds a tightening of the muscles around the eyes,
Mm-hmm.
a furrowing of the brow, like the
Mm-hmm.
person is desperately trying to escape the pain but can't.
Wow, that's a powerful image. So the body itself is expressing that intensity.
And what's interesting is that Dr. Ekman found that people suffering from depression tend to show more signs of sadness and agony, even when they're not talking about sad topics.
Oh, really?
It suggests that these emotions become a kind of default state for them.
Wow. So those expressions could be a clue.
Exactly. Underscores the importance of paying attention to those nonverbal cues.
Yeah. Okay, we've covered disgust, contempt, sadness, agony. That's quite the emotional roller coaster.
It is.
Let's move on to anger. I feel like anger is just everywhere these days.
Yeah, it's true. It can be a really destructive force.
Yeah.
But anger also serves an important evolutionary purpose.
So it's not always a bad thing.
Not necessarily. Dr. Ekman describes anger as being triggered when we perceive an obstacle that is blocking us from achieving our goals.
Okay.
And that obstacle could be anything. It could be a frustrating coworker,
Mm-hmm.
a traffic jam, or even our own perceived failings.
So not just about being irritated, it's about feeling thwarted, like something is in my way.
Exactly. And our bodies react accordingly.
Right.
Our heart rate increases, blood pressure rises,
Yeah.
and our faces contort.
Yeah, we've all seen that anger face.
Furrowed brows, narrowed eyes, tense jaw.
Yep.
We're primed for action, ready to fight or flee.
Yeah. But Dr. Ekman also talks about the difference between constructive and destructive anger. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, so constructive anger can actually be a really powerful motivator for positive change.
Okay.
Think about anger that is directed at injustice or inequality.
Mm-hmm.
It can fuel movements for social justice and push us to address systemic problems.
So channeling that energy into something productive.
Exactly.
Okay.
But then there's destructive anger,
Right.
which can lead to impulsive actions, aggression,
Yeah.
even violence,
Mm-hmm.
often leading to regret, damaging relationships, and even having legal consequence.
Right. So being able to recognize the difference and then having strategies to manage it.
Absolutely. Being able to differentiate between the two
Yeah.
is crucial for navigating challenging situations and maintaining healthy relationships.
Okay, so anger can be a force for good or for bad.
Yes.
All right, up next we're going to be talking about fear and surprise.
Okay.
Two emotions that often go hand in hand.
They do.
What are some of the key things that Dr. Ekman highlights about those two emotions?
So both fear and surprise involve that sudden jolt of adrenaline, that feeling of, oh no, what's happening?
Right.
Our body's way of preparing us to either fight or flee. But there's a key difference between the two.
What's that?
So fear is triggered by a perceived threat,
Okay.
a sense of danger, whether real or imagined. So it's that feeling you get when you see a snake in the grass
Okay.
or you hear footsteps behind you in a dark alley.
Yeah.
Surprise, on the other hand, can be positive, negative, or neutral.
Huh.
It's simply about something unexpected happening.
Yeah.
And then our reaction depends on what that unexpected thing is.
So it's the trigger that makes the difference.
Yeah.
Threat versus unexpected.
Exactly.
Okay. Now what about the facial expressions? Are they similar?
Well, both fear and surprise involve raised eyebrows and widened eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But fear adds a tightening of the lips and a backward pull of the head, as if the person is trying to get away from the threat.
Okay.
Surprise often involves an open mouth and a forward tilt, as if the person is leaning in to get more information.
So pulling back from danger and leaning into the unknown.
And those subtle differences can actually reveal a lot about how we're processing and reacting to the world around us.
Right. So it's all about the trigger and then these subtle differences in the facial expressions.
Yes.
I'm really curious to get into the enjoyable emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But first we have to take a quick break.
Okay, so we're back talking about fear and surprise and those reactions to threat versus the unexpected.
Right.
But there's more to fear than just that initial adrenaline rush.
Right. There's a lot of nuance.
Yeah.
Dr. Ekman talks about different types of fear,
Okay.
ranging from the rationale to the phobic. So like being cautious crossing a busy street versus being terrified to even leave the house.
Exactly. Yeah, rational fear, that's the healthy caution that keeps us safe,
Mm-hmm.
prevents us from doing things that could put us in danger.
Yeah.
But then there's the irrational fear, the phobias, which can be debilitating,
Oh.
prevent us from living full lives.
It's like fear gone haywire.
Right.
So how do we know if our fear is rational or starting to control us?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
I think it often requires a little bit of self-reflection and honesty.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, is this fear stopping me from doing the things I want or need to do?
Okay.
Is it causing significant distress?
Yeah.
Does it feel out of proportion to the actual threat?
If the answer is yes, then you might want to think about getting some help.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like anything else, sometimes we need a little guidance to understand what's going on and to learn how to manage it.
Yeah. And fear, like all emotions, is part of being human, right? It's not about eliminating fear entirely. It's about understanding it and managing it.
Right.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about those enjoyable emotions that I think we all crave.
Yes.
And Dr. Ekman doesn't just talk about, you know, happiness in general. He
Right.
breaks it down into a whole family of enjoyable emotions.
Right.
So beyond just feeling happy, what are some of those less obvious enjoyable emotions that he highlights?
So you've got everything from simple sensory pleasures like the taste of chocolate or the sound of music.
Those are important.
They are.
It's easy to forget about them.
Easy to overlook them, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And then, more complex feelings like amusement, contentment.
Right?
And then there's even a word the Italians use, fiero. It's that thrill of achievement, of pushing yourself and succeeding.
Oh, I like that.
Fiero.
So imagine the feeling of finally conquering that challenging rock climbing route
Yeah.
or finishing that DIY project you've been working on for months. That sense of, I did it. That's fiero. Oh, I love that. And speaking of specific emotions, there's that Yiddish word nesh, which describes the pride and joy a parent feels for their child's accomplishments.
Yes. Nish is such a beautiful word. It captures that unique parental joy, that sense of pride and fulfillment in seeing your child succeed.
Yeah.
It's almost like basking in their accomplishments.
And then there's elevation.
Oh, yes.
That warm, uplifting feeling.
That feeling when we witness acts of kindness and compassion.
Yeah, remember that viral video of the guy who helped that elderly woman cross the street in the pouring rain?
Exactly.
Like, there's still good in the world.
That feeling of warmth and hope.
Yeah.
That sense that humanity isn't so bad after all.
Mm-hmm.
That's elevation.
So we've got those sensory pleasures, fiero, nesh's elevation, a whole buffet of enjoyment. But what about the universal signal of enjoyment?
Yeah.
The smile.
The smile. Well, the smile is fascinating because, believe it or not, there's actually a difference between a genuine smile of enjoyment and a fake one.
Really? You're telling me I can spot a fake smile?
You can.
Tell me everything.
It's all in the eyes.
Ugh.
A genuine smile engages the muscles around the eyes, creating those telltale crow's feet.
Uh-huh.
You can't fake that.
So if the eyes aren't smiling,
If the eyes aren't smiling, it's probably not a genuine smile.
it's like a secret code.
Yeah.
A window into someone's true feelings.
It is.
So-
And being able to distinguish between the two can be so helpful in navigating social situations
Yeah.
and understanding people's true intentions.
Right.
Think about it in job interviews, business negotiations, even just casual conversations. Being able to read a genuine smile can give you so much valuable insight into how the other person is feeling.
It's like a superpower,
Almost.
being able to see through those fake smiles.
It really highlights the power of paying attention to those nonverbal cues
Yeah,
because often they reveal more than words ever could.
absolutely. So we've got this incredible array of enjoyable emotions,
Right.
and we can even spot a fake smile. How does all of this tie together? What's the takeaway?
I think the key takeaway is that understanding the nuances of emotion, both the enjoyable and the less enjoyable, can help us to navigate our inner worlds and our relationships more effectively.
So it's all about emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
Being aware of our own emotions and the emotions of others,
Yeah,
and
man.
then using that knowledge to make better choices in how we interact with the world.
Absolutely. And as we've seen, there's so much more to emotion than we might realize.
Yeah.
It's this incredibly rich and complex tapestry of human experience.
Mm.
And the more we understand it, the more fulfilling and meaningful our lives can become.
Absolutely. This has been incredible, and we're not done yet. We still have more to uncover about enjoyment and how it shapes our lives, so stay tuned. Okay, and we're back. Wrapping up our deep dive into emotions. We've covered so much ground with Dr. Ekman and emotions revealed, from the protective nature of disgust to how to spot a fake smile.
It's amazing how much is going on beneath the surface, when it comes to our feelings.
Absolutely. So for our listeners out there, What does it all mean? How can we actually apply all this stuff to our own lives?
Well, I think for one, we can start by paying closer attention to those subtle facial expressions, not just in others, but also in ourselves.
So becoming more aware of what our own faces are doing when we're feeling something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So next time you're feeling stressed or frustrated, just take a moment to notice what your face is doing. Are your eyebrows furrowed? Is your jaw clenched? Just becoming aware of those physical signs can be that first step towards managing those emotions more effectively.
Yeah, once you see it, you can start to kind of understand it.
Right. And this awareness can then extend to how we interact with others. It's not
Yeah.
just about reading other people's faces, but using that information to connect with them more meaningfully.
So, like, let's say I notice a friend seems down, even if they say they're fine. What's the best way to approach that?
Well, imagine you're having a conversation and you see that fleeting expression of sadness or concern
Right.
by simply acknowledging it. Hey, I noticed you seemed a bit down. Is everything okay? You're opening the door for genuine connection and support.
So, going beyond just the words and tapping into that other level of communication.
And sometimes it's about recognizing when someone might be trying to mask their true feelings.
Okay.
Someone says they're fine, but their lips are tight, their eyes narrowed.
Yeah.
That might be a sign that something else is going on.
So, we're like emotional detectives,
Yeah.
not trying to psychoanalyze everyone,
Right.
but just being more sensitive to those cues.
Those unspoken cues, which are always present.
Right. And that can be so valuable in all aspects of life, personal relationships, work.
Oh, yeah. Think about being able to sense when a client is feeling hesitant or a teammate is feeling stressed.
By tuning into those emotional cues, we can respond with more empathy and understanding,
Right.
and ultimately have stronger connections.
Absolutely. And here's something else to think about. If we can learn to recognize and manage our own emotions, can we also influence the emotional states of those around us?
That's a great question. It's like, if my emotions are ripples in a pond, can I create ripples of positivity that spread outwards?
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Research has shown that emotions can be contagious.
Mm.
We tend to mirror the emotional states of those around us. So if we can cultivate more inner peace and well-being in ourselves,
Yeah.
we might actually contribute to a more positive emotional environment for everyone.
That's a really great point. That's really inspiring.
It is.
And I think a great place to end it. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into emotions. We hope you learned something. And remember, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.